new document. So we're going to click onto Henry III, Act 3. These are really big documents. I had no idea how huge they were when I first started making them. Just the size of the document alone might, stress you out. But I do want to emphasize that we are doing this at a very, very reasonable pace. And for those of you that do show up to the Google Meet lessons, you have the great advantage of talking through and figuring out what the literary text is saying. So responding to the questions from that perspective isn't as difficult a task as it appears to be. So I keep scrolling down until I come to it takes so long. I'm really sorry about this. But I think this might be our scene 6. We've already talked about the request Pistol makes to Fluellen. He wants to try and get Fluellen to speak to the Duke for him in order to save Bardolph from the noose, because Bardolph was caught stealing from a church. And prior to that, we were given a hint that this was going to happen when Henry charged his uncle Exeter to the care of the town and said to him, "Be merciful, do not let anyone, abuse these people in any way." And of course, Exeter his men caught Bardolph stealing. And so the punishment is to be hanged. An extreme punishment, but that was the law then, I guess. Why Shakespeare added this was to show how Henry V has, in fact, completely severed himself from his old life. Bardolph used to be one of his drinking buddies, and he does not have his drinking buddy thieves back. When told of Bardolph's execution, he said that he would have all offenders treated in the same way. We looked at the extended personification of fortune and how that discussion of fortune not being something to be trusted, and how it is, volatile, it shifts, it moves, and it has done so for Bardolph. Now, what is Fluellen's original opinion of Pistol? I don't recall if we did that question or not. I'm just going to scroll down now through the scene and see. Oh, I know what I did. In here, and in our very last chat, I said what line we left off at. We ended today's lesson at line 39. Okay, so we can get out of here. We can get back into here and go down to line 40. Now we're going to we got Fluellen's original idea of Pistol, that he is a valiant man, and he did a gallant service at the bridge. That is one act, but it doesn't, when it balances against everything else about the man, he's still an unacceptable individual. So we left off here where Pistol was begging for Bardolph's life, and Fluellen replies to that. Let's go into here. Hi, Mr. Casagnabo. And in chat, I'm going to ask you this question. How does Fluellen respond to Pistol's request? I believe lines 42 to 44. Let me make this shorter so we can continue to see the chat and the text at the same time. So here are your lines, 42 to 44. How does Fluellen respond to Pistol's request? Remembering that Pistol asked Fluellen to speak to Exeter on Bardolph's behalf to save him from the noose for having stolen a small item from a church. What's Fluellen's answer? Let's see who we have in here. Miss Vickers, Mr. Casagnabo, Mr. Amberlo, Mr. Nala Llewellyn. Look to lines 42 to 44. He is accepting of Pistol's threat. Well, prior to this, Pistol doesn't make a threat. He's hoping Fluellen will talk the Duke out of hanging Bardolph. What? And still lines 42 to 44. Llewellyn responded by saying that even if he would be accepting of his execution. Very good. That is exactly it. Basically, Bardolph will hang. I have no idea how I left the meeting. And that means I lost the entire chat. Does anybody else have the chat that I did? Oh well, I'm going to have to go back to the video again then. Very frustrating. So you were both correct in terms of the fact that he is saying he is going to hang. He would not try to stop the Duke, even if Bardolph were his own brother. There must be discipline. He ends on the note that there must be discipline. Alrighty. So what does Gower say about Pistol? What type of man does he consider Pistol to be? Here are his lines. Why, this is an arrant counterfeit rascal. I remember him now, a bawd, a cut purse. So you want to click on the notes for each of these. What does arrant mean? What does rascal mean? Bawd. And since Pistol is a man, the odds are he means a pimp. What is a cut purse? And then another one is he calls him a rogue. So we've got lines 49 and 53 down through to this whole passage to 62. So what does Gower have to say about Pistol and men like him? So he is a type of man. Why, this is an arrant counterfeit rascal. I remember him now, a bawd, a cut purse. Why, 'tis a gull, a fool, a rogue, that now and then goes to war to grace himself at his return to London. So this is his opinion of him, everything that I've yellowed out. And this is the type of individual, type of soldier he is. And now and then goes to the wars to grace himself at his return into London under the form of a soldier. And such fellows are perfect in the great commanders' names, and they will learn you by rote where services were done, at such and such a sconce, at such a breach, at such a convoy, who came off bravely, who was shot, who disgraced, what terms the enemy stood on. And this they con perfectly in the phrase of war, which they trick up with new turned oaths, and what a beard of the general's cut and a horrible suit of the camp will do among foaming bottles and ale-washed wits is wonderful to be thought of. But you must learn to know such slanders of the age, or else you may be marvelly mistook. Oh, yes. Thank you. Sorry. So, let's start with the name calling. So we begin with the name calling. It's everything that is blue, oranged out, or in yellow actually. This is where you take advantage of your notes. And in your notes, you click on each one of these words so that you have a better understanding of the kind of man that he is being referred to as. So go through these 5 and, in your own words, without using errant, rascal, bawd, cutpurse, and rogue, come up with more modern adjectives. And try to avoid swear words because it's very easy to replace these with swear words. So, hi, Mr. Andanoff. I'm just going to move this for 2 seconds. Save my screenshot. That's all right. Oh, you're in there anyway. That's funny. I disconnected too, which was very frustrating because I lost my first run of chat notes. I'm going to have to go into the video in order to get them back. So let's look at the name calling. In your own words, write a sentence in which you modernize Gower, identifying the kind of man, his opinion of him, and then we'll look at the type of soldier. So first of all, his opinion. What does he mean when he says he is an errant rascal, a bawd, a cutpurse, and a rogue? So take those 5 Shakespearean terms and give me some more modern terms. Excellent. Petty thief. Very good, Mr. Malaluen. We've got the petty thief. What else? We've got 4 more. We've got errant, rascal, odd, and rogue. Very good. In fact, I remember a joke made between Pistol and his wife earlier in the play about how she won't be taking on any lodgers because everyone will assume that it's a brothel. Okay, so we got the bawd and the cutpurse. Errant, rascal, rogue. Now, notice rogue and rascal's definitions have a similar term within them. I'm not going to risk losing this. Damn. Because if I accidentally bump out of the screen again, I'm going to be very upset. Arrogant. Yes. Yes, you can. Downright thorough, unmitigated, notorious, rascal, base, dishonest, unscrupulous, rogue, dishonest, knavish, person, a scoundrel. Arrogant isn't in any of these, but you've got to set what's the one word that connects these ideas? In rascal, a base, dishonest, or unscrupulous person. Errant, downright, thorough, unmitigated, notorious. Rogue, a dishonest, knavish person, a scoundrel. In rascal and rogue, we get another understanding of Pistol's character. What is it? Look again to your definitions. Rascal, a base, dishonest, or unscrupulous person. Rogue, a dishonest, knavish person, a scoundrel. There's the same word in both of those definitions. Okay? Look at the screen if you don't have the document in front of you. A rascal is a base, dishonest, or unscrupulous person. A rogue is a dishonest, knavish person, a scoundrel. There's one word that is found in both those definitions that we can use as another way to describe Pistol. Scoundrel. Scoundrel and rascal? No, but he is a scoundrel. But note in rascal and note in rogue. A bully. He is a bully. We saw that side of him in the first scene, in his first scene. He is dishonest. I just want to make sure Mr. Casanello understands, like I said with you for arrogant, though it does not match any of the highlighted words, that you do have a good understanding of Pistol's overall character. All right. Now, this is a type of soldier that he is. He is all these things, and because of that, this is the kind of soldier he is. What kind of soldier? So we're looking at lines 52 to 62. Lines 52 to 62. Read through them and see if you can tell me what kind of soldier Gower perceives Pistol to be. Because he is a scoundrel, because he is dishonest, because he's this kind of individual, because he's a thief, it all adds up to him being a very specific kind of soldier. I'm paranoid today because I lost my first set of notes, and that really upsets me because I lost all the notes yesterday and I had to get them from the video lesson. Oh, Lord. That was not fun. So far, still no one able to answer. I'm going to reread those lines. Why, 'tis a gull fool, a rogue, that now and then goes to wars to grace himself at his return to London, under the form of soldier. And such fellows are perfect in the great commander's names, and they will learn you by rote where services were done at such and such a sconce, at such a breach, at such a convoy, who came off bravely, who was shot, who disgraced, what terms the enemy stood on. And this they con perfectly in the phrase of war, which they trick up with new turned oath, and what a beard of the general's cut, and a horrible suit of the camp will do among foaming bottles and ale-washed wits, is wonderful to be thought on. But you must learn to know such slanders of the age, or else you may be marvelly mistook. That's just a slight warning. But what kind of soldier? Is he the kind of soldier who goes to war because the amount of fame and wealth he thinks he will gain? Very good. This soldier learns everything he can about what happened so he can tell tales in the pub. and be honored by others, even though he is Hey, sweetheart, hush down. So he goes to war not because he believes in the Lady Jane, stop it. Not because he believes in the battle and what's going on and the need to follow their king, but because he wants to be able to tell tales of the battle and have everybody honor and respect him as a great soldier when in fact he wasn't. So it's just another con for this sort of man. They don't go to actually participate in the battles, they avoid battles as much as possible. So, what news does Fluellen have to give the king about the Duke and the Battle of the Bridge? Enter King Henry, Gloucester, and soldiers. Hark you, the king is coming, and I must speak with him of the bridge. Bridge, it's spelt with a P because, as we were looking at dialect the other day, this is his Welsh accent. God bless your majesty. How now, Fluellen, camest thou from the bridge? Ay, so please your majesty, the Duke of Exeter has very gallantly maintained the bridge. The French gone off, look you, and there's a gallant most brave passages. Mary, the adversary, was have possession of the bridge, but he is enforced to retire, and the Duke of Exeter is master of the bridge. I can tell your majesty the Duke is a brave man. So, what news does Fluellen give to the king? King wants to know how the Battle of the Bridge went or is going, and Fluellen informs him. Line 68 to 72, they are underlined. What is he letting him know? He's informing him of this particular, I guess, skirmish. The Duke of Exeter has very gallantly maintained the bridge. The French is gone off, look you, and there is gallant and most brave passages. Mary, the adversary, was have possession of the bridge, but he is enforced to retire, and the Duke of Exeter is master of the bridge. I can tell your majesty, the Duke is a brave man. So everywhere you see the letter P, put the letter B. So you're figuring out what is being said in lines 68 to 72. Mr. Mala Llewellyn. What happened at the bridge? This is a very brief summary of the battle at the bridge. And so please your majesty, the Duke of Exeter has very gallantly maintained the bridge. The French has gone off, look you, and there is gallant and most brave passages. Mary, the adversary, was have possession of the bridge, but he is enforced to retire, and the Duke of Exeter is master of the bridge. I can tell your majesty, the Duke is a brave man. For every letter P, you replace with B. So the Duke of Exeter has very gallantly maintained the bridge. The French has gone off, look you, and there is gallant and most brave passages. Mary, the adversary, because of course this is his. Very good, Mr. Andonoff. Yes, indeed. And you add to that, he now has control of the bridge. So the bridge is now officially British territory for as long as they hold it. What else does he say about the Duke? What else does he say about the Duke? One more thing. He says this specifically about the Duke's character. We learn about characters in 5 ways: what a character says, what a character does, what another character has to say about him. So, what does Llewellyn have to say about the Duke of Exeter's character? That he is a brave man. Very good. All right. The next piece is very straightforward. The king wants to know how many men have died in battle. So, how many British soldiers were lost in the battle? How many were lost in the battle? No British soldiers were lost. Very good, Mr. Malalawa. Mr. Malaluan. I keep mispronouncing your name. What does Fluellen say about French losses? Perdition, meaning loss. Adversary being his accent for adversary. What is he saying about French, the French losses? What does he say about French losses? Many were killed. Yes. So it was a decisive victory for the English. Okay. Fluellen does mention the loss of one British soldier. Who, why, and how does this man die? I'm putting you through a bit of a review with this question. And here it is, but one. I'll italicize it to separate it from the other two. One British soldier is to die. Who is that soldier? Why is this soldier to die? And how does he die? So read through. We're looking at lines 75 to 79. Line 75 to 79. Bardolph is executed for robbing the church. Very good. All right. Montjoy is the French messenger. he is referred, he is called the Herald. Herald, where is that? We'll just leave it at the French messenger. At some point I'll remember the... So, Joy's the French messenger. What message does he bring to Henry V from the French king, or from the King of France? So we look to lines 89 to 101. Thus says my king, say thou to Harry of England, though we seemed dead, we did but sleep. Advantage is a better soldier than rashness. Tell him we could have rebuked him at Harfleur, but that we thought not good to bruise an injury till it were full ripe. Now we speak upon our cue, and our voice is imperial. England shall repent his folly, see his weakness, and admire our sufferance. Bid him therefore consider his ransom, which must proportion the losses we have borne, the subjects we have lost, the disgrace we have digested, which, in wait to re-answer, his pettiness would bow under. For our losses, his exchequer is too poor, for the infusion of our blood, the muster of his kingdom too faint a number, and for our disgrace, his own person kneeling at our feet, but a weak and worthless satisfaction. To this add defiance, and tell him, for conclusion, he hath betrayed his followers, whose condemnation is pronounced. So far my king and master, so much my office. In your own words, what is the message to Henry from the King of France? We use the word ransom. in this case, why is that ransom going to be so large? They automatically assume in the battle tomorrow, boom, we take you, and you have to pay rent. They assume that they are going to win. Yes, very good. What else? What else? Oh, crap, I hate when I click on that too soon. What else? Okay, so you got for the infusion of our blood. Actually, no, you're right. That is the answer. They will also make it by showing his weakness. Yes. Very good, Mr. Andanov. His troops, his numbers are too faint. Warning him, in essence. Excellent. And what is to happen to his troops? What is to happen to Henry's troops? What is to happen to Henry's troops? Perhaps we need to look up the word condemnation. See if anyone's got the answer. So, condemnation. The act of condemning, the state of being condemned. So let's go to the state of being condemned. And let's look up condemned. Spelled it wrong, sorry. I love the fact that to pronounce to be guilty. So let's go in here. So what is sentenced to punishment, and what do you expect their punishment to be? So condemnation. I'm going to put this in the notes. So think about that. Whose condemnation is pronounced. His followers' condemnation is pronounced. They're pronouncing it right there. This is what is to happen to your men. Bingo. Very good, Miss Vickers. How does Henry respond to the threats made by the King of France? That means you have to go to lines 105, and you have a very long speech to go through. Lines 105 to 131. I got to figure out where I left off last. So we go to lines 105. Let's start with 104, sorry. Thou dost thy office fairly. Turn thee back and tell thy king. So what is his response? This is tell thy king. Okay. I do not seek him now, but could be willing to march on to Calais without impeachment. Impeachment? It's obsolete for discredit, reproach. In this context, hindrance. For to say the sooth, though 'tis, I should tell you what sooth is. I'm going to go into dictionary because I want to make sure I give you the right definition. I believe it means truth. Very good, Patricia. Yay. My vocabulary is not too bad. That is not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. For to say the sooth, though 'tis not wisdom to confess so much unto an enemy of craft and vantage, my people are with sickness much enfeebled, my numbers lessened, and those few I have almost no better than so many French when they were in health. I tell thee, Harold, I thought upon one pair of English legs did march 3 Frenchmen, yet forgive me God that I do brag thus. This your heir of France hath blown that vice in me. I must repent. Go therefore, tell thy master, here I am. My ransom is this frail and worthless trunk. My army but a weak and sickly guard. Yet, before God, tell him I will come on. Though France himself and such another neighbor stand in our way, there's for thy labor, Montjoy. Go bid thy master well advise himself. If we may pass, we will. If we be hindered, we shall your tawny ground with your red blood discolor. And so, Montjoy, fare you well. The sum of all our answers is but this: we would not seek a battle as we are, nor as we are we shall say we will not shun it. So tell your master. I'm just going to take this down to 90% if I can, so that we have the whole thing. So impeachment, in this context, it is a hindrance. Sooth is the truth. Trunk is body. Tawny is dark yellowish, dull brown, so crossing over dead grass, for example. How does he respond? And he gives out his own threat. Thou dost thy office fairly. Turn thee back, and tell thy king, I do not seek him now, but could be willing to march on to Calais without impeachment. For, to say the sooth, though 'tis no wisdom to confess so much unto an enemy of craft and vantage, my people are with sickness much enfeebled, my numbers lessened, and those few I have almost no better than so many French, who when they were in health, I tell thee, Harold, I thought upon one pair of English legs did march 3 Frenchmen. Yet forgive me, God, that I do brag thus. This your heir of France hath blown that vice in me. I must repent. Go therefore, tell thy master, here I am. My ransom is this frail and worthless trunk. My army but a weak and sickly guard. Yes, yet, before God, tell him we will come on, though France himself and such another neighbor stand in our way. There's for thy labor, Montjoy. Go bid thy master well advise himself. If we may pass, we will. If we be hindered, we shall your tawny ground with your red blood discolor. And so, Montjoy, fare you well. The sum of all our answer is but this: we would not seek a battle as we are, nor as we are we say we will not shun it. So who can tell me how he responds to the threats made by the King of France? This will be our last question. So we didn't get through this scene today. Their threats will not be ignored. What do you mean? Good, Miss Vickers. They will continue to fight. But he also mentions the state of his troops. What do you mean by that is directed to Mr. Casaniavo. Their threats will not be ignored. What do you mean by that? What is that disadvantage? Be very specific. They're at a disadvantage. What is the disadvantage? There are two very obvious disadvantages. You mentioned the first one. They are sick and outnumbered. Excellent. So you've basically, what is Harry's threat? We're looking at lines 120 and 21. Oh, not 120 and 21. No wonder you guys are confused. 125 to 127. What is his threat? He throws a threat back at. Not necessarily to kill the king. Who will they kill? Because they will not meet the French king in battle. So you are correct that even with his troops in this condition, they will power forward and kill. So I'm going to take the Dauphin. Again, Henry is not being that specific. And the ground will be covered in blood due to all the killing. Very good, Mr. Mala. Luan. Very good. That's it, exactly. Lastly, to finalize this question about how Henry responds to the King of France, lastly, what does Henry V say his ransom to the King of France? Would be I reword that. What is the only ransom Henry V is willing to give the King of France? That's better. What is his ransom? No. Yes. But what is the ransom? It will be worthless because what's the only thing he's willing to give the King of France? Not junk. The word is trunk. This should be something that you would have seen in Romeo and Juliet, where Romeo referred to himself in this manner. It's body. You go to the notes. My ransom is this frail and worthless trunk. Tell thy master, here I am. So if it's worthless, the only ransom he will give the king is what? His dead body. This is a very determined, committed conqueror. Alrighty. Now, we ended odd line 131. Almost doesn't seem, actually, I'll just tell you what is the key point at the end of this scene so that we can move on to the last scene tomorrow. The scene ends with Henry V saying they are in God's hands. Their victory or their loss will be determined by God. We are in God's hand, brother, not theirs. Whether we win or lose, it will be as God decides. Whether they come upon them now or whether they wait until tomorrow or a month later, it is all in God's hands. Alrighty. Are there any questions? So with all of these Google Chats, with all of our discussions, you should not have any difficulty going back and answering the questions, which can be answered in point form. And, but be thorough enough so that you have useful information to study from, because you will have a unit final on the play. It will be I've been working on a multiple choice test for this, so we'll see where we go with that. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'm going to call this class to a close. I'm going to stop presenting. I'm going to go in and stop recording. So the lesson is over for today.